This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy.
Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted.
Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God.
Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of God.
Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth.
Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied.
Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God.
Just want Ron, no surname or anything.
Just Ron. Ron's good. Ron.
All right, perfect.
I'm actually extremely excited about this one because I fucking love this show. Language is okay.
Fuck, fuckity, fuck.
There you go. That's
all. Especially when that's every other word on here. And I'm glad I resaw this when I did a few years back. And it's like, see, I'm in a better mindset. You know, when you're young, all you can do is be distracted by the content that's not safe for work. And I would see parts of this back when it was first a thing, like 02, 03. Or no, yeah, it was definitely around 04. I was like, yeah, this is not for me. Like, and it's so heavy. So I was waiting a while to mature, see how it aged. And it always came up in like shows HBO should have never canceled. And
yeah,
we talked about before how kind of like Sony had to split the bill with Larry Sanders. And much like Oz, this was a Paramount co-production, so HBO wasn't always keen on re-showing it because it meant, you know.
See, yeah, the thing about HBO shows is that they cancel shows that are great because of money, and because, you know, Rome was a great series,
right?
Oz actually finished all the way through. It kind of had a weird ending, but it finished all the way through.
Yeah, it's Sopranos. Fontana's St. Elsewhere. Yeah,
Sopranos is just fucking epic. I'm actually watching The Sopranos again, probably for the 20th time.
My sister's watching it for the first time as well, and it's so funny. Like my mother,
for the first time.
Yes, for the first time, and it's
yeah,
it's one of those she always admired Gandolfini and saw some of the actors in her stuff, and was like, I'll get around to it. And it's like now she has HBO Max, so she has no, you know, and her coworkers are still talking about it. It's like, that's what made me tune into TV. So it's so funny. My mother, who could never stand it, you know, and it's a funny thing. She liked Larry Sanders and Oz and some of those other, you know, crime shows like Miami Vice and everything. But it was just one of those, like, it was just too much in her face. And now I think seeing it from a more mature aspect, she's just like, okay, so it's not about a crime and rise to power. It's more about, she can do stuff like Succession and Game of Thrones. So I think we all mature, we all grow out of stuff. I mean, I was that way with plenty of other fun campy shows, which like I hated stuff like CSI and
see, I watch a lot of campy shows.
No, I love it now, but growing up I just thought it was excess and crap. But you know, I like all the other Tom Fontana, Dick Wolf, and St. Elsewhere and 24 type shows. But I think it just got to where it depends on what place you're in and when you get into certain stuff. And I don't know what it is. Sometimes just seeing it the way it's meant to be seen also makes a difference. Much like a movie, I see a lot of shows. I'm like, wow, they cut that out of the broadcast. Well, no wonder that sucked. on the syndicated version, you got all this other extra stuff. And I don't know, sometimes there are other shows where it's like, maybe if you take out some of the over the top moments and focus on the good, maybe that's better. So it is kind of funny when I see people who, what season of X-Files or Star Trek did you see? Okay, well, that's not going to make sense if you haven't seen this one or that one. And Deadwood was, I'm glad I saw it when I did, because I mean, much like Rome, it's so funny. Rome kind of got pitched first, and you're like, that'll never fly. Then Deadwood's a critical smash, and like, okay, do that, but now in Roman time. So it's like they were going backwards, and you can find
they were doing a lot of historical stuff. That's the thing. They were doing that. They were doing. You remember Carnival?
Yeah, and you see, I have always seen parts of it. It's on my other bucket list of stuff to watch in the next 5 years.
It's a good show. It's a good show, but it does cut off at the second season to the point like, what the fuck? Because it's almost like a David Lynch type of series, almost close to Twin Peaks, and a Carnival in the 1930s, and it was great, but they canceled it. Too expensive.
I'm glad you bring up Twin Peaks, because I do feel like Deadwood's kind of a similar scenario.
Really? I don't see the compare. I need to know
just a closed off town with unusual happenings.
That's true. No,
but yes, it's more of a sci-fi fantasy horror show. But I think I did see, believe it or not, some of the producers of that worked on this.
Well, it's David Milch, the producer. Was David Milch the
he wasn't on there, but like there were some other producers and directors. I think I saw that shared credits, so I thought that was interesting. But
that's crazy.
But yeah, Milch brings in a lot of his NYPD Blue guys, and Hill Street Blues guys. And there's this one director I saw who did a bunch of like 3 to 5 episodes, and he's like married to Elizabeth Shue and directed some episodes of other shows like 24. And this one 8 Emmys, and it's always made the list of canceled too soon. And I'm glad I saw this back to back with the movie, because man, I would have been pissed. Had I gotten to the end of season 3 and been like, "That's it," And
that's the thing. I was one of those people that watched the show, and I watched it all the way to the 3rd season. And I was like, "Wait, no, what the fuck?" And then they were talking about how they were going to do a 2-hour, 4-hour movie. I think 2 movies at one point. I was like, "Okay, where is it? I'm still waiting. Still waiting." Years and years go by, still nothing. And then finally, 2011, I believe, is when they made it. And they made the 2-hour movie, which kind of finished everything off.
Oh, you'll love this. I saw someone trolling online saying, "I preferred it how it ended." I'm like, you cannot be serious in any way, shape, or form. But Mark Tinker, who used to be married to Mary Tyler Moore, who did a lot of those Hill Street Blues, St. Elsewhere productions, he was one of the producers. And Greg Finberg, who later was the unit production manager and executive producer on True Blood.
Right.
He was one of the lead producers on Twin Peaks. So
I fell off of True Blood. I fell off of that one. I watched up to the 4th season. In fact, I have a funny story about True Blood.
It seems like you got to be a vampire guy to really love that one.
Well, this is the funny thing. I remember I was binging on it because I think there was already the whole season played through, and my wife was down here on the couch laying down sleeping, and I was watching it, and she thought I was watching porn. And I was like, "What are you?"
It's got those moments.
It has a lot of sex in it. It says, "I'm watching this vampire show on HBO. It sounds like porn." And then she started watching it with me, and then she got addicted to the point where she liked the show. And then I dropped off the 3rd season. I was like, I'm not getting into this. But she did, and she finished it off, and she loves it. But it's just funny. She thought I was watching porn, but it's because there's a lot of sex in True Blood. That's known for HBO shows.
I mean, that and Game of Thrones definitely blur the line to where it's like, it's an adult drama as much as it is.
Yeah, and I know they've done like other ripoffs of that on other networks, but they're more toned down and stuff like that. They don't come anywhere near True Blood. I
think it's just when you've seen so much shit, it's just hard to just kind of get out of that space. And again, I take it based off what you reviewed and what I've done. It is kind of that we're not bothered by this. It's just annoying having to explain this to people who are just kind of coming in late. Because it's like, it's not what you think it is. And guess what? If you're seeing part of it, it's still part of it. It's not the full story. So I'm not saying you got to think it's good, but come on, just You got to watch at least a season to get an idea of something before you just blow it off and say it sucks.
Yeah. I always give it a chance. There's a lot of shows, and like I said, HBO is one of my favorite things when it comes to TV shows. You said you watched Succession?
Yes,
Did you
and
watch Westworld also?
I need to catch up on Westworld. And
Off that one.
what's so funny is people spoiled the ending of Succession for me.
Okay,
3/4 of the way
you
through.
You got to stay off social media. That's the problem because I
didn't.
TV show.
I was. My mother and sister decided to just spill the beans and then go, "Oh, that's right, you haven't seen it." I'm like, and I never will. I guess I will, but give me a moment to heal here, people. God damn it!
I got spoiled on Stranger Things before I watched it. It took years before I actually watched Stranger Things, and it was such a big hit show. But I saw everything online, and I just waited years to just try and forget about it, and then I watched it, and I wasn't spoiled as much. So,
well, it's fine to let the hype die down, so you're not getting caught up in. And I think that's the other thing too. I see people who will blindly just not see something. Oh, my favorite YouTuber hated it. I'm like, well, I think you can think for yourself. Right. And those same people I will see a movie on Netflix and they're like, I don't know why everyone hates it. I'm like, think for yourself.
Exactly.
God.
No, I agree.
I will still like reading a review, even if it's negative on something I like, because I mean, if I respect the person and if it's not a rant, sure. Yeah. You know, it's like, okay, this really disturbed this guy, and I understand this. He's bringing up a valid point about an otherwise flawed script that I happen to otherwise enjoy, but you know, it is. I see just so many other people. It's like they're reactionary. I'm like, I had one. I used to do some blogging for a crappy action movie review site, and one guy had the nerve to just, when we were posting these, just go, "What if you don't like it? Why'd you post it?" I'm like, have you ever heard of a review? God, you're so narrow-minded.
We're critics. That's what we do. We review shows and movies. So,
but I hated that site because the guy running it would also kind of cater to peer pressure. Oh, I got to hire someone who actually likes it. I'm like, how about just have some stones and stand by your voice?
Exactly. Well, can I ask you a question though? What is your favorite HBO show altogether?
This is so hard. So I think it would definitely be a tie between this, Oz, The Wire, and Larry Saunders. Like, okay, they're all bigger than the network they're on. Don't get me wrong, Rome is also, like you say, fantastic. And we had Pedestrian at Best podcast on there to do a complete review with us, and I think on this Moments section, like when we were prepping for this, I was like, see, I think the reason this show, Deadwood in particular, is a sleeper is people are coming back to it now that they're fans of the actors and other things they've seen them in, like people who want to know, oh, what else has Brad Dourif done besides, Lord of the Rings, Chucky, and Star Trek,
What's cool is him as Dr. Cochran, but also
as Dr. Cochran.
You also got to remember there's somebody in this show that's not well respected in Hollywood.
I'm glad we did bring that up in the initial review with Jeffrey Jones, and I think that was my only issue with the movie is like, he did nothing. Why did you bring him back? He literally he's the editor of the magazine, and that doesn't even come into any chapter of the movie. There's zero reason.
He was a fun little zany, like small character throughout the series. I remember when he did that whole little thing with Seth and Saul when he says that they were taking let's go ahead and take a walk and walk down. I remember he made like a name. I'm just trying to remember what the name was. The you remember what I'm talking about? Where you said,
it's a key thing, but damn it,
Seth and Saul walked away, and he was like, the somethings or something. I don't remember the name of it. I just watched that first season just a couple weeks ago too.
Well, and
he has some little great parts in the show, but nothing big. He's not a big character, but he is funny.
Right, but
you can tell that he gets teased a lot.
Still a key thing. I mean, going back on it while doing research today, I do keep forgetting that Ray McKinnon, who's kind of better known for being an actor turned director, is I think he was part of the what did he do? It's like he's recently been on the John Wick spinoff, The Continental, but he's best known for being attorney Lincoln Potter on the Sons of Anarchy Mayans saga.
I never watched Sons of Anarchy.
Okay, that's okay. But he created Rectify, and I just think it's interesting how Deadwood is kind of one of his many recurring roles. I've known about Peter Jason because I'm a Return of the Living Dead free fan, and he's done, he's been everything: Mortal Kombat to 48 Hours, Arachnophobia. He's a Walter Hill guy.
Yeah,
and it's so funny. Walter Hill only did the pilot episode, which was just fitting because he's a Western lover. But I just find it so funny how everyone else is pretty much part of just, again, the Stephen Bochco Milch family. But I had the opportunity to see a great PBS documentary about George Hurst and how he inspired the story of Citizen Kane. And it's just more interesting when you get all that info more in context on, and seeing him displayed at his dirtiest here as the businessman turned prospector.
George Hurst was a great villain, and it was crazy. It was good that he came back. I
love Gerald McGrady, but man, when he plays a bad apple, you're just like, you do your job so damn well.
Oh yeah, he does. He does. I love the face off between him and Al Swearingen when he cuts Al's finger off.
And then
even
if it didn't happen, the equivalent of it happened, at least in that he made Al freaked out. And I mean, he's gone on, 80s people are always going to go, and 90s people are going to go, oh, Promised Land Simon and Simon guy. Well, again, people, even the British version of House of Cards are going to be like, oh, that's right, he was in that. And I think just seeing him as the sheriff on Jericho and as another bad apple on Longmire, he's just kind of become a more Western favorite in between.
Have you seen Timmy Elephant in the series Justified?
Absolutely.
And there's also a couple other characters from Deadwood that actually are in Justified.
There are. Stephen Tobolowsky goes from being, he's the Attorney General, I think. No, he's some Fed.
Yeah.
And then he goes to becoming like a crooked DA guy who's in league with those Dixie mobsters, and it's just funny. But both completely unrecognizable roles. You would never know. That is the dude from, Groundhog's Day. What the hell? Mississippi Burning. What the hell?
I know. He actually has. He's been in so many movies, but Groundhog's Day is what you remember for. But he's also in Basic Instinct for a small role. So many movies, and
that is a great role.
I think there was even a documentary on him being in movies. I don't remember. It was a long time ago about it, but
I actually bought a more recent one by him because I was actually coincidentally on a podcast talking about his career. We have to judge the actor based on all their roles and how they've evolved, and he was an interesting one to look at because
he's in a lot.
Yeah, he's done so much, but he's picked them way better than other character actors. But sometimes, again, because of how he's done so much, you sometimes forget, oh, that's right, he is in that.
Yep.
I love Calamity Jane, Robin Weigert. Again, just
she was great.
You look at her and you're like, what a beautiful person. But you would just never know because of how masculine she makes her role in that. And she's gone on to be in movies like Concussion, and she was previously in Angels of America. But I especially applaud how
you do really good on your research.
It helps when you're in a geeky movie family. But
how about Powers Booth as Cy Tolliver?
Yeah, I was a fan prior. I'd seen him in Tombstone and 24 and just every other just big spectacle disaster TV movie of the week, and he just had that.
Sin City,
right? So I definitely saw Sin City first, and I think this one was just interesting in that. Again, I kind of can put him and Michael Ironside in that same kind of pedestal where I'm just like, I know everything he's going to say, I'm going to believe.
Wow, that's a comparison. Michael Ironside.
Yeah, I'm surprised he wasn't on here. Is just that kind of actor who he says with absolute conviction. Maybe Ernie Hudson's a fair close second. Just those actors, they can play it straight in that same voice.
Ernie Hudson was good. He was good in Oz. I loved him.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the thing about you saying that Michael Ironside, because I just did an episode on Starship Troopers not too long ago. Yeah, great movie, fun movie. It's just
But yeah, Ironside is just like these guys they're that perfect actor where they can be funny or they can be hammy, trashy, or campy, but the voice is
Mhm.
just bigger than their actual stage presence. It's just that, and Booth has that commanding voice as Tolliver, and I love his posse. How
Yeah.
He wants more of the disorder, but he's like a typical snake where he's just in the thick of it, and he knows how to not stand out like
I
a
think
sore thumb.
more of the snake is E.B. Farnham, though, because he's a little fucking rat. I can't stand E.B. Farnham as apparently the mayor of Deadwood too, William Sanderson.
Oh yeah, his voice gets on my nerves. I can't blame you. As the owner of the hotel,
he's the one character I actually really hate in the series, but he's good. He's one of those characters that plays he
has some good moments, but yeah, you've seen him in Blade Runner, Babylon 5, and also the sheriff on True Bloods. It's just, I don't know what it is about his voice. It just gets on my nerves, but
he's just annoying. But I like his little old man. I don't remember the actor's name. The old guy that says with them, the one that's taking the antlers. Remember, and like bound.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
Yeah, I enjoyed
Antler's Guide.
Yeah, he was in the first season, maybe like one
Ralph
episode.
Richardson.
Yeah, he became
the cook.
Yes. He became more of a
there's actually a site
character in the second.
If you love it, called the Deadwood Chronicles.
The Deadwood Chronicles website. And
yes.
It tells a lot about Deadwood.
And they got photos of them and everything framed and audio clips. I'm not kidding. I'm looking at this right now.
I'll have to check that out.
I'm glad you brought him up. I think this is it. When everybody talks, so many other shows we love or hate get too full of themselves. They just got to have someone kind of chew the scenery. When an actor speaks, they are getting poetic. There's not a single wasted moment. You're just like, this has to happen. I mean, again, there is some Hollywoodization, but it's never to a Titanic moment where you're like, that just did not absolutely not happen. It's never that bad. I know other historians had issues with the swearing. I'm like, well, for the sake of argument, someone was swearing or saying some equivalent of an insult. It might not have been the word fuck or shit multiple times, but it was something.
Cocksucker.
Right. They might not have used cocksucker, but whatever, man. But yes, I mean, the Negro General probably wasn't a Brandon Bullock in real life, but it works for the sake of this and that.
Yeah.
And again, Bullock is trying to keep, he's a hardware store co-owner when he's not a sheriff, but I think what made it so gritty for everybody is that instead of who died this week, it's who's about to let the lid off of the trouble that's a brew, and he's ineffective. It's not because he's bad at his job. It's just there's too much sin in this city. And Trixie as the prostitute, was perfectly played by Paula Malcolmson. She's gone on to be
great job. She's been in a lot of things. I've actually seen her in a lot of other.
Have you seen her on Ray Donovan?
No, I've never watched the show Ray Donovan, but I've seen her in some movies, and I know like I said, I saw her in an episode.
Much like this, yeah. It got canceled, and Showtime said, "Okay, fine, we'll let you edit the last 2 episodes together into a movie." But
so they made a movie out of Ray Donovan?
Yeah, for just cable and everything, but it was much. Unlike the Deadwood movie, I don't think it would have worked as a standalone movie. Well, the Deadwood movie, I thought was awesome. Like, they did an awesome flashback, everything I need to know in like 2 minutes. And I would have loved to have seen it on the big screen.
I would have too, but I could have. I wanted more. I kind of wanted
I did too. That's how good it is. Like,
but I'm glad it finished the show. Like, I'm glad there's
and Don Swayze.
Yeah,
Patrick's lookalike brother is just like, man, what a taunting son of a bitch. It's like, and Garrett Dillahunt, I'd already loved him in No Country for Old Men, the Sarah Connor Show, Burn Notice, and just so many other things.
You're talking about the one that played 2 characters in the first
I'm
season.
like, and again, I see so many people who will balk whenever they see the equivalent of Bochco or Dick Wolf do that, or even David E. Kelly. I'm like, see, it doesn't bother me there because like the actor really does disappear. They had good makeup and wardrobe. You really can't recognize it unless when you're a movie buff. Like I see him, and neither character looks alike. Like his hair and voice and posture is all different.
Yeah. Well, the thing is about the character is how he played, because that's actually, I know, because you said the top 5 moments in Deadwood. The character.
Yeah, I mean, you can list as many as you want, but for the sake, yeah, it's fine if you just want to do 5. You know?
Oh no, I see. I have them listed because I was having a hard time because I have so many. I love this fucking show because I like I said, this is
early role for Sarah Paulson.
12 or 15th time I've watched the show all the way through all 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I've done the same thing on Sopranos. I've done the same thing on Oz. I've done it on Rome. I've seen Carnival probably about 5 or 6 times all the way through again.
Sweet.
That's how crazy I am about the early HBO shows. The HBO, even Game of Thrones. I've watched Game of Thrones, I think about 6 times all the way through.
Also, there you go. You know, and I do need to get to Milch's other show, John from Cincinnati. I always heard that was a good show, but it
was good, but it was canceled. It was only a 1-season show, so canceled the show.
Trust me,
there was another one too with Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, Luck. And that's another good example. Like, that show was well liked, but it was also, aside from the horses dying, which unfortunately plague every production that involves horses. It was one of those. It was one of the rare instances where there weren't too many cooks in the kitchen, but 2 people who were masterminds of the genre couldn't stand each other. You know, like Milch creates the show, and is banned from the set by producer and head director Michael Mann. He's like, "Hey, you know, you're being a dick to me on set, and I'm not going to have that." You know, so it is interesting how it's not like Community where the creator gets fired because they don't want to lose the star.
Yeah,
it's more just. I look at it kind of like a David Mamet working with De Palma or Sidney Lumet. Like, it's a peaceful workaround, but then you see other instances like you've seen instances where like George Clooney or Brad Pitt or Matt Damon like respectfully disagree from afar with the screenwriter and hire someone else to rewrite their scripts from afar.
That's Hollywood. That's Hollywood. That happens.
But it's at least professional, as opposed to I come to set and I'm going to delay 5 hours of shooting just to explode on you, you know, but
I think it can be kind of pompous though when you think about it. I mean, but
it doesn't need to happen at all.
Right.
And fortunately, I had a lot of fun researching this even months in advance because that's what I give myself time to do. But I found out that there's this one, you probably know this by now. I never caught up on it first initial viewing, but like I saw him, but I didn't know his name. There's this one asshole in the corner who's always saying something douchey or cynical.
Mm-hmm.
And he's apparently played by co-writer Ted Mann. And you look at him and he's written multiple episodes of the X-Files spinoff Millennium.
That's crazy.
NYPD Blue. But yeah, he was one of the writers for the show, and they said, "Hey, how about you get your SAG card and you say some of the pompous things that this character is saying?" You know, and I think that's awesome because I mean, the great thing about Milch is he is a loving, great human being. Everything I've heard about him, he's great, but he knows how to bring up just the shitty nature of mankind, you know. As a struggling gambler, like, he's not stupid, but he knows why it's bad and why it can fuck you up real bad. And it's a shame that when
isn't he going through like an issue, like a medical issue right now?
Yeah, like dementia. So like he's kind of living on welfare, but like it was one of those what he could always write these scenarios, and you hear other people who kind of did it too well because they were kind of just as bad as some of the people they were writing, and that wasn't the case with him. He just knows how to kind of look at mankind and bring the humanity in the ugly side of life somehow without, you know, coming off as a insensitive guy or trying, you know, like, for instance, kind of like Norman Lear, you know, he's done the Jeffersons and, you know, Archie Bunker, but he wasn't at all like those characters, you know, and it's always a shame when I see people who are like, well, no wonder they did a good job. They were an asshole in real life. You know?
But you know about his before they made the movie, the Deadwood Blu-ray set, actually the special feature where he actually does like a walkthrough through the set. And
I had no idea. That's great.
Oh yeah, no, this is the good thing, because it was kind of out. It was almost like the sequel to Deadwood, where it continues the 3rd and 4th season because he explains what he was planning on doing. And there's even a little cameo by Mr. Wu at the end.
It's like a Chris Carter going through and showing unmade X-Files scripts. That's great.
No, it was really cool because there was a whole thing where the fourth season, he was planning on a big fire taking over Deadwood and a lot of main characters dying.
That would have made sense.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of other things they were planning on doing, but it's almost like a 20-minute feature of him with the camera just focused on him walking through the set and explaining, so this is what this would have happened. I was going to have this happen. This was what this, like, he's explaining what would have happened. It was like, oh, cool. Well, that gives you a little closure. That's what would have finally happened. But then he kind of changed everything for that 2-hour movie that he made. I think it was like an hour and 50 minutes. I don't even think it was full 2 hours. But yeah, it was a cool feature on the Blu-ray set. I don't know if you ever get the Blu-ray set, if you ever get a chance to, the complete series.
I'll have to.
You'll see the little extra. You might be able to find it on YouTube, actually. You might be able to find that video on YouTube.
Anything to support and let HBO know, hey.
Yeah, I kind of wish I wish HBO would have got off their asses and actually brought the show back, because the show had a lot of popularity, and I don't understand why the fuck they canceled it, because it had such great storytelling and also the dialogue. I mean, just the amount of dialogue they had for the Western time back then and how he made it with more of a modern, like the fucks and cocksuckers and everything else. It was probably one of the most hard language shows ever, in my opinion. And
yeah, I think Sopranos is slightly more excessive, but I see what you mean.
Sopranos is hard, but I feel like you almost hear cocksucker like 100 times in each episode.
I don't know. I guess
that's like the main.
It is a stronger word. To me, it was more like The Wire and Oz, where it just kind of became more poetic at times, as opposed to like Tarantino, where hey, we're gonna be fancy.
Yeah, but, the Wire and Oz, because I think Oz was from the same creator of The Wire, wasn't it?
Similar in that they're both loosely connected to Homicide, which is part of St. Elsewhere. But
I thought it was actually the same creator. But
it was the same guy as Homicide, David Simon and
Homicide. That's right.
But it's all good, like so. But because of Detective Munch and the St. Elsewhere and Oz Prison connections, it does have, it's loosely in that same verse.
Oz was a fun show. I actually really enjoyed that show. It went off some weird areas sometimes, but
that's kind of why I liked it. Like, it was more organized in its goodness. So is it true that they killed off the kid playing Seth's kid, William, because the actor was being crazy?
I never heard anything about that.
Okay, I've seen it on
something they wrote in the storyline. That's actually the funny thing about him is that leads into one of my favorite scenes in the episode.
Anna Gunn, as Miss Bullock.
Anna Gunn. As Bullock's wife,
right?
His brother that passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I remember they were in the carriage and he farts, and the prostitutes inside the thing were like, smells kind of funny in here. And the little boy farting inside the carriage. But the great thing about the scene is when they first get to the scene of Deadwood, and that's when Bullock and Al Swearingen, one of my other favorite scenes, when they get into that fucking huge fight, and Swearingen's about to kill Bullock, but then his son is looking right at Bullock, and he says, "Welcome to fucking Deadwood." I love that. I love Swearingen. I love Al, and I just love how that was pulled off. But I didn't hear any rumor about him being hard on the set or anything like that.
Just the kid actor, I think, or something like that. I'll share it here in just a bit.
Yeah, go ahead. I'd actually like to know about that. So you found something?
Yeah, I was on Reddit, and it's just all the fun on the Rich Eisen show. Also, fun fact: this is the only program to have both Timothy Olyphant and Omenson in the same program. Omenson is great on this because both he and Titus Welliver, who everyone else is going to know from NYPD Blue and Bosch, is like, those guys always know how to disappear, and it's so cool that they now have gotten more sympathetic or heroic or even anti-hero roles instead of just always being the douchebag of the week who chews the scenery and gets killed. And I think Omenson, he as Brahm, he plays the claim seeker. He's just created for the sake of this, but like he just plays off everybody really well. Like, I think everybody feels like they actually, it wasn't like most shows, good or bad, again, that start off with too much, and then slowly people leave because they got a better opportunity and they're not being well used. Like, every character, they're being used, and it was cool because even though some of the women were barmaids or whores, they weren't just that. It's like they were.
I thought Trixie was like pretty badass to the point where she went.
Yeah, she shoots Hearst. She tries to kill Hearst.
I know. She pulls her tits out and opens the door and then shoots him right in the front.
Well, that and much more, but apparently she did not marry Soulstar, the co-owner of Bullock Hardware in real life, but I think it worked for the sake of this. Like if
they're not going to go extremely like.
Yeah, no, it's not required.
TV show, yeah.
But it was the right kind, I think, again, of Hollywoodization versus other ones where you're like, they didn't even fucking try. Like it's. I think Westerns also work better because, like, when you see it again with like any version of Tombstone or Young Guns or any other, just scenario is like, okay, well, there's so many rumors. You got to just pick one and go. It's not like, hey, that's a very dangerous conspiracy you said about a candidate that's really causing a lot of misinformation and other conspiracies. And it's like, no, this is your vacuum and you're free to suck up any stuff you want and then spew it back out. This is your oyster. You do what you want. And
exactly.
The big scene still for me was the saloon worker Dan.
Mm-hmm.
And just because W. Earl Brown, he's another one. He's very much like anyone he's much like Stephen Root and some of those other heavier like character actors. Like whenever I see him, I'm like, oh, it's on. It's me.
Yeah. It's funny from that. He's in a lot of things. He's also
6 Feet Under, Bates Motel. It's just, yeah.
He's also a character in a game that I love. I don't know.
Last of Us.
Yes, in my favorite scene, which they kind of screwed it up in the show, in my opinion, because that was actually my favorite. I'm not trying to be again. What I'm saying is that
it's
that was
all cool,
favorite,
dude.
That was my favorite scene in the game when he takes you through the school and everything else. And I was looking forward to seeing it in the TV show, and they just turned it into a love story and didn't even completely take it out. I understand they were trying to, say their thing, but I was like, I wanted them to go through the school. I wanted to see the bloater. I'm a big Last of Us fan too.
No, so that's fine. I like Halo, but a lot of the other diehard fans don't seem to like it. And even though it's by the same people. So, I mean, Last of Us is another one where there are a lot of people who like it, but there's also other people who are just like, well, it's fun, but because I'm too close to the material, I wish they had done this differently. And it is fine. That is quite okay.
They're going to go differently. The thing is, I like the show. It's not like amazing, but I do like it. I'm looking forward to the second season because I played the second game also, so I kind of know the storyline. So I'm curious what they're going to change because I know they're going to. I know they're splitting it into like 3 seasons for the second game because the second game is fucking long. I played Last of Us probably about 3 or 4 times all the way through because I love that game. I love the story. It's just a beautiful story.
It's an adventure, horror, fantasy, action game. It's everything. But
the funny thing is about, like you said, when we were talking about, is it W.C. Brown? Is that his name?
Yeah, W. Earl Brown. And you've seen him in everything. You've seen him in True Detective, American Horror Story, Psych. He's he's a brief role on Mandalorian that is funny, and outer space western. See, and you've seen him probably in Backdraft and The Sessions, also with co-star John Hawkes as well as being John Malkovich. But like, he just has that intimidating face where I'm like, I don't know if he's gonna be the biggest biker or douchebag. And fortunately, despite his intimidating look, I've fortunately been like, my hat's off to him. Much like Tobolowsky, they could easily just make him be a rapist or shithead every week just because he's not handsome. And it's like, he fortunately has a lot of very strong. Both him and Jim Beaver have been fortunate enough to be a mixture of likable as well as just poetic or just gray line people instead of just I'm the douche of the week who's going to get gunned down,
Well, there was one little scene in Deadwood where he kind of got a little creepy.
No, absolutely.
You know exactly what I'm talking about with the sister and brother that come into town. You remember that? I think
that's true.
Season. And he kind of puts his hand. He's like, she's underage. What are you doing? You kind of, but then it gets completely sidewinded, and you don't see that. But then you get to that whole fight within him and Captain Turner.
I was going to bring that. That is one of my favorite scenes because
pulls his eye out.
Well, yeah. Well, and Alan Graff, that's a stuntman legend, and they fortunately gave him a stunt coordinator and acting role on this show, and he there again a Walter Hill connection.
Yep.
He probably got thrown in the head because Milch is like, Hill, give me all you got. And
I've seen him in so many movies.
Yeah, yeah. Look
so
up his resume. You'll find every other Schwarzenegger movie on his fucking list.
exactly. That's that's what I was
McNulty
thinking
movie.
about. I just remember seeing him where there's a glimpse of him there, there's a glimpse of him there.
But like Ali Young, he's been fortunate enough, like even if you don't know his name, to have at least some featured acting roles instead of, shoot him, or kill him. It's not just because, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of stuntmen who, when they actually act, they suck. And he's he does not fall into that camp. Like he looks like he belongs. Yeah. And
very intimidating in this
but like
role.
this scene is great because like Earl's Dan, has caused so much mayhem and he's had it, and Turner is, being sent to kill him. And so this has everything. Like, so this works for the gore hounds. This works for us who are wanting to see, a resolution to all this mayhem that's been built up.
Yeah.
And then
well, you're talking about also Brad Dourif too, because he comes from other things like horror and everything else. And he does this doctor. He plays a doctor.
I've seen him at conventions. I want to actually talk to him, but unfortunately him or his agent always have him doing VIP lines. But I think Dourif is another one who needs more respect than he actually gets. Because I don't know if it's just that not enough people have seen Cuckoo's Nest or don't remember him in it, or some of the other movies and shows he's been fortunate enough. Like,
I'm one of those guys that like him in the original Dune. I actually like.
There you go. Hey, he's great there.
I like the David Lynch Dune. I know everybody says it's not the best movie, but I enjoy it. I actually enjoy it more than the newer one.
We all love a movie that isn't liked by most people. It's inevitable. And
I agree. Like mine is Explorers. Everybody hates that movie or has never heard of it. I love that movie. That was like a favorite.
Really? That's on the shitting list? Jeez.
You don't like Explorers?
Well, no, I didn't know it was on the worst movie of all time list. Jesus,
oh yeah, we did a show on it, and all the guys were like, "Yeah, it's okay." And then even my wife and my kids hated it. I'm like, "This is what I grew up with. I love this fucking movie." I mean, I want to be a kid and go build a spaceship and go to space.
It seems like everything's getting shat on. I'm seeing people roast John Hughes movies. I'm like, freaking disagree.
Oh yeah, my wife does a show also, Barrel Aged Chicks. They reviewed Breakfast Club because she brought it up because she loves that movie, and one of their co-hosts, Snow, used to love the movie, and now being a mother, she can't stand it. Like she thinks it's
just remind him of students she teaches.
No, it reminds her of she's got her own kids and seeing how, it's just what they stand. I don't know. She kind of ruined the movie for my wife because she bashed it so much.
But see, that's what I don't like too. Like when someone gives a review and that ruins them for it. It's like, no, you shouldn't.
That happens a lot on our show.
Oh,
I see. Okay, I'm sure you've seen The Room, right?
Yeah.
I think The Room is fun to watch, even though it's a horrible, bad, stupid movie. But
it's an essential movie you should see because it's not like the intentionally bad movies, which I can't stand because it's like you didn't even try. It's like, no, this guy thought he was doing Citizen Kane and he couldn't. He didn't have it in him. But it's interesting to see how it's a perfect example of how you can have all the money in the world and not make anything coherent. But unlike other similar bad movies, it's just kind of one of those that just stands out because it's a passionately bad. Like it's
Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Oh, there you go, Ed Wood. And
I love Ed Wood.
Many of us did, dude. I watched so much. I watched so much Jim Wynorski and Fred Olen Ray, who have made a living doing all those shitty titty comedies for Skinemax and archive stock footage action movies and just other random half-assed like Universal wannabe like sci-fi horror movies that make you go, what the hell? And they're so Dourif is at his best here, I think, just because he just has so many good moments. He's not a one-dimensional, only brought in when something bad happens. And I think just because he's been on so many movies of different kinds, he just fits in perfectly here. Same thing with Molly Parker. Like I had seen a lot of her movies before. You've seen her probably in The Center of the World and the miniseries Intensity and The Road with Viggo Mortensen. She's also been on House of Cards, but like it was one of those like I believe everything she's saying, and yes, Bullock does commit adultery, but it's done in a way where you're just like,
it's a storyline I don't care for in the show. It's actually something I can just.
all right.
Yeah, it's actually like, I don't know if you ever thought of like what's something you don't like in the show. That little storyline between him, because when then he gets involved with with him and Alma, but then he gets involved with his real wife, the one that his brother.
I guess because it was like 3 episodes. I guess it made sense to me, but it wasn't done in a way where you're like, oh, just an excuse to have more sleaze and sex.
But it was brought back in the movie too. They showed the flashback and stuff like that. They brought it back.
Oh, that's right.
He still had that little like feelings for her, and it was just like, give it a rest. You got a nice wife.
I guess I think that's just it. Like Milch did it in a way where I was just like, okay, it's not trying to be soapy. It's trying to be just show that this guy had trouble being loyal to anything, because like he's so far away from his wife. Oftentimes he doesn't, with her, even though it's still wrong. I feel that. I understand. That's not.
How about Charlie Utter?
Charlie. Oh man.
Jane. With
Dayton Kelly. Yeah.
With Calamity Jane, and
whenever I see him
Charlie
in a movie, like I know that man has something important to say. Same deal. Like
I love him. I love him in this, and what his chemistry with Seth Bullock and everything, because he actually becomes the deputy, and his whole story. It really sucked in the movie that he's the first one he gets killed off by her.
Yeah.
And I was like, man.
And he has a great final line of dialogue, but I did feel that too. I was like, no, you didn't, motherfucker. And you're just like, he did it. No.
He was a great character, because especially him and Calamity Jane were almost like a brother sister type of characters between, because they wrote with Wilcock. And I love Charlie Utter, who I think is played by Dayton Colley.
Yeah. He hadn't done anything for a while, but then he popped up in some more movies recently. So I was like, okay,
he was in Justified, wasn't he?
Was he?
I believe he was in Justified, and I also know that he was on John from Cincinnati.
I'm not seeing that. I know he's on Anarchy, but
he was on John from Cincinnati. And I said, you said you haven't seen that show, right? You said
I want to, but I want to.
Like I said, it's good, but it's short. I mean, like I said, it's one season. And
I feel you. There's plenty of shows where I'll watch, even though I know it ends anticlimactically, and then there's others where I'm like, I don't want to waste time on this one just because I know I'm half and half on it. It really does depend on the show. So there are some where I'm like, you know what? I know I'm not going to get a complete story, but that was still worth seeing. It's a good show. And then there are other ones where you're like, testing my patience here. Sorry, another time. But yeah, no, I've seen him in all kinds of things. Seinfeld and The Nanny. He's they gave him some great lines as well. And whenever
you've seen a lot of TV shows,
too much.
I don't get as much chance to watch his TV shows. Like I've watched a lot of main shows when I was younger. Like
it's easier for me to sneak in because I'm like, okay, I'll come back to it. But like there are other ones where I'm like, okay, like if I want to see every episode, it's a good show. Yeah. If it's casual or fun, but I don't have to necessarily see it all, I'll live. Like I'll just watch it casually. But like, yeah, no, he's got some great credits. He has done some made for TV and direct video stuff, but you probably have seen him in To Wong Fu and Volcano.
That's right. He was in Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones. Oh
yep.
That's the one movie that came out when Dante's Peak came out of the scene.
Let's see. And
Battle of Volcanoes.
Deadwood could have easily been like the twin TV show. It could have easily come out when something else was, but unfortunately it wasn't. Like Rome did have some other good shows that were trying to be like it in Gladiator, but like I can't think of any
Spartacus Blood and Sand.
So there you go. Yeah.
That was trying to be almost like a the 300 basically with that type of type of stuff, but
as over the top as you can. And
Rome what was good about Rome, even though a lot of Rome, it's not action, it's very much political, and I love Roman politics and how they handle it and everything else.
Me too. I mean, that's why I think without that or even John Adams, I don't think HBO ventures on
Adams is great miniseries.
I was in a history class where we would even look at key scenes, and
I love it. I love history.
It's so exactly. I'm like, if it takes fiction to make you interested in or even politically active, go for it, man.
You should just call this episode HBO because we're talking about
it's
Band of Brothers.
It's not right. It's not uncommon. We did do a Brothers special where we focused on that, and
probably the best war.
Yep.
I think to me, if I were to do the top 5 war films, and that's not even a film, but to me, it's just one long movie.
Oh, trust me,
number one.
I'll have you back for when we do top HBO shows. I mean, we were doing this with like Larry Saunders, where we were like, there's no escaping its influence on other stuff like Curb Your Enthusiasm. So I think it is in any way, like, I think this is a sleeper HBO show in that, yes, without this, you don't get the guys trying to do other stuff on the same network.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't see all these other guys continually working with Walter Hill or even the likes of Rob Zombie of all people. And they don't, most of them, yes, do appear on Justified or Sons of Anarchy or both. But then the ones who are still at like the 7th stage of their career are still just like their star just keeps rising. And again, people come back and say, what was your first recurring role? Oh, it's this show. And that I can't think of anyone where I was just like, you're wrong for this, or it just doesn't work. Like, I was a little Greg, not Greg, what's his name?
David Milch?
No, there was this one guy, he played Mattavoy on NYPD Blue, and
I don't know. I never watched NYPD.
No, it's fine. Gordon Clapp has this one brief role on Deadwood. He plays, he's the bizarre mustache guy, Gustave, the tailor.
The Russian?
Yeah.
No. Russian is the one that does the SOS thing.
No, he's cool. I've seen him in a bunch of things.
He was on like one episode, one or like 2 episodes. He was like, I know who you're talking about now.
Okay, yeah. His accent was a little off, but I have a photo of him now. I'm like, he was okay.
That's another character I actually enjoyed in the show, was actually the Russian that played the.
I love Pasha Lindikoff and everything I see him at.
I've seen him in a couple of movies. I've seen Indiana Jones, like Crystal Skull. I remember him being rolling that. And,
Taxi Driver and Die Hard 5. But like whenever I see him in anything else, good or bad, like you look back at him and he's like, he and like 3 of these other guys who were like in Air Force One are like always on the short list to like do a Call of Duty voiceover, and then followed up with like, need a Russian bad guy or pimp or soldier of the week, I'm here. And it's just they're on that same list. And I think I don't mind them because, kind of like Danny Trejo, it's never to the point where I'm like, they couldn't find someone else. Is like, no, but in all fairness, they're really good. Like,
right.
Pasha gets a lot of good stuff. He's not just there because he looks the part. Like he crushed it. And it was cool, I think, too, just to again show the Russian or Chinese immigrants that were in the town instead of just the white guys, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the Negro General was one of my favorites also because he gave a voice to minorities in the town. And
he was actually a part of the 2-hour movie. He was the one that saw Charlie Harper get shot.
Yeah. And so it's like you get something else for Seth to do. And again, even if that relationship didn't happen in real life, it's like still, it's good actor. He's been in a million things. Every character just really kept growing as the show goes on.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small-town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, give it up, Jimmy, you got to sink this putt to win. On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in, it's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out.
I met one of the guys from Deadwood. No, he's only on like 2 episodes, but I met one of the guys that actually played a part. He's actually a very well-known actor. He's been in a lot of movies. He's in The Christmas Story, Scott Farkas.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I got to talk to him about Deadwood, actually, because I asked him, I remember seeing you in that little scene in Deadwood. I said, how was it like being on set with everybody? And he told me a little bit about it. God damn it. I have a bunch of shit signed from him that I got from him. I even got a Scott Farkas action figure signed by him. And he was a really nice guy. Like, really cool guy to talk to. He was in Virginia. Wow. You're on the West Coast, right? You in Central or West?
Yeah, technically I'm Texas, so yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's Central. But met him, and he had a small scene in Deadwood where he was like, I think he was just one of the janitors for E.B. Farnham, but he was only like 2 scenes in the whole series or something like that. And he played an Irishman, so he had like an Irish accent and everything. Do you remember him in that role? It's very short.
Very vaguely.
Or he said he shit himself, basically.
Okay. I know the scene. I don't know the face, but I know it. Yeah, there is. But see, when it did scatological stuff, like kind of like when there's the flu outbreak and showing how callous everyone is about that, like that was very well done. Like that could have easily been like a cheap plot device or.
Yeah, it made me sad though, because the preacher and. I'm glad the preacher went like Al Swearingen and kind of put him out of his misery.
Yes.
He had that stroke and everything. And it was
Zach Grenier was good on here. Glenn Morshower, who's been in a million movies.
Oh, yeah.
Had a good role. My favorite guest star had to be the guys playing the Earp brothers.
Mm-hmm.
That just, there's so many great Wyatt portrayals, but like.
How about Mr. Wu? You gotta love Mr. Wu.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Wu, yeah.
Mr. Wu was freaking hilarious and great in the show. Another scene with Al Swearingen and him going at it. Says, woo, like cocksucker, cocksucker. He just kept saying cocksucker.
It's all he knows. And I've seen Keon Young in a bunch of things, but
oh yeah, he's been in a lot of movies. Shit, I think I remember him in maybe I'm wrong. It might be him. You remember the movie North with Elijah Wood?
Yes.
I think he was one of the fathers when he went over to Hawaii. I think that was him. I might be wrong. I might have to look that up.
My favorite has to be General Crook, played by the great Peter Coyote.
Yes.
E.T., Cross Country, Aaron Brockovich. You've seen him, and this was around the time where he was kind of doing more TV movies or guest starring as a president on shows, and you're just like, but.
If I were mayor, I'd have you hanged. I remember that he said that to Cy Tolliver when Cy was like offering him all this. Oh God, it's a great series, man. Deadwood is just so. That's why I'm so glad you brought me in to talk about this, because I
had to, dude. We try to revisit everything. If it's that good, I always promise we'll do a favorite moments, because if something is good, if you want to rewatch it right now, regardless of what time you have, and if you still want to talk about it, it's a good fucking show. And
oh yeah, it's amazing.
It's not just something where you're just like, I have nothing better to do. It's not something where you're just like, well, it's the cool kid thing to do. No, fuck that. It's because the writing is just the icing on the cake, and
the writing, the acting, the production. I mean,
the production, yes.
It looks great. It looks like the Old West.
I don't ever feel, I mean, my sister is the queen of, that's a closed off set whenever someone's outside and their hair is not moving. But I've seen everything. Like, for instance, Babylon 5, great show, shitty effects. But it gets past it because the story is so compelling.
No, I'm a Trekkie. I watch Star Trek.
Oh, there you go. And I'm
watching The Next Generation right now all over again because I just love it.
I did too. Every once in a while,
I like the original series. I have no problem with it. I grew up with it.
There you go. See, and
you remember Earth 1, Earth 2? No, Earth, the show Earth 2.
Yes, I
That's
actually
like
went through all
seasons, I
that
believe.
around 3 years ago, and I was like, "This is a good show." That had
The Clancy
should
Brown
have he and Megan Gallagher,
Yep.
and it's like that show should have been bigger. And
yeah, it got canceled. It just didn't last. It was to me, it was a fun show. I watched this. How I'm just curious. What is your age range you are?
I'm in the mid-30s, and I'm
You're
doing a
younger than me.
special. I mean, we did we've done a few specials on Tales from the Crypt, and it's how ridiculous that HBO lost the rights to it, and we're like, that's literally the vein of its '90s existence. What are you talking about? And we're talking about Lovecraft Country, and again, that's a short-lived show that should have been on for 3 more years. But
Tales from the Crypt was great. We're actually our Halloween series that we're doing right now, where
nice.
We're doing this Friday. We're recording my episode, Bordello of Blood and Demon Knight. So we're doing a review on both movies to talk about.
There you go. Hey,
and
what a great
show. Yeah, I love Demon Knight. Bordello of Blood is horrible, but it's a good TNA movie. But Demon
that's
Knight,
kind of so you would love how not to make a movie podcast, which explores the making of that and has great guests, and it's hosted by the head writers.
No shit.
No shit.
I definitely have to take a look at those. Take a listen.
And I've had the main producer of that, who both edits that show as well as his own show, Dads from the Crypt, where they review various anthology shows like that, Twilight Zone, Black Mirror, and everything. And you would love them too. Like they love everything from medical shows to heavy metal to just everything. And like that, I think the reason Crypt is just so liked is just whether you saw it modified on reruns or back when it first came out. Like we went to town on it. Like it's just like there's so many landmark episodes because much like Twilight Zone, it was kind of 2.0 in that you, aside from the morality, you just had fun with all the different, the junk food crowd only remembers the puns. Yeah. All the other guys were just loving, hey, that was a really brilliant plot twist. It's like, that was a wonderful cast. Like that is a career best role for all those guys, on anyone who gets start. And I mean, Coyote here on Deadwood, I would put this as one of his top roles. Cause like you say, that I'll have you hanged, you're trying to, I'm trying to get more troops because all of them are going to the gold mine. And much like Crypt, like it focuses so much on greed and greed kills.
Powers Booth is a greedy mofo in that show.
He's so fucking greedy.
Cy Tolliver.
Yeah. And that's what was really compelling was when all the promos and everything, you thought, oh, Swearinger, like he's going to be Tony Soprano. He's going to be the big bad of the show. And you're like,
he is my kind of Tony Soprano for the show. I love Virgin.
Well, no, I absolutely.
But I love everybody else. That's the thing. I love everybody for what the role that they do.
But at least he's more than just, the gym saloon owner and the pimp, if you will, is like, okay, he's also
he's almost evil, and then he's good. He's like he's what's the word for that, for being both sides?
If not anti-hero, then gray area. But
I would probably say anti-hero.
But yeah, Cy is definitely the true outlaw, big bad of the town. But Al, when you first start, you just think, much like Sopranos, Power, or Yellowstone, he's the villain protagonist. So therefore, he's the less of the evils who just is going to wipe him out just because he didn't start the turf wars. But it's like, no, complete reversal of that. He's just in the middle of it. And he's like, I'm not going to fucking take this anymore. First, okay, so maybe in real life, the guy was just out for his own well-being, but I just dig how both him and Seth are reluctant to trust each other. That is what's compelling. It's like, okay.
But you see it in the movie though, that they gained a trust for each other, and to the point where leave
my business alone, I'll help you out. And Seth's like, okay.
I just
hate
how
they
kill him off. They kill him off being an alcoholic, basically drinking too much, and him getting liver disease, and then
that I will give you. Did he die of alcohol?
It's because of his alcohol. I believe it was liver disease. He drank so much, and I believe that's
it's often reported that he died penniless, and you're like, But like you say, they did kind of rush that, and I don't know how much of it was trying to get it done versus Milch's dementia.
Yeah, it like I said, I'm glad they did it. It was nice to see everybody have a little bit of closure,
But there were still a few other things you're like, okay.
There were things that they skipped. There was a couple stories that they didn't finish up, but it was still nice to finally get a little bit of closure.
Instead of just Cy makes the town his bitch and cut to credits, you're like, no.
I remember Hearst was leaving on the wagon and was like, what the fuck? No, it needs to keep going. And it didn't go anywhere, but I'm glad they, like I said, the movie was closure, and I'm glad they did it. I just wish it would have ended another way. I wish we could have gotten at least 2 more seasons, or at least a longer movie than an hour and 50
What
minutes.
do you think of Johnny Burns, played by Son Bridgers? And he's another one. Whenever he often gets typecast as a creep, but he's just really good at it. And I think
which one is Johnny Burns?
He's one of the other saloon workers. He's got a beard. Just
the little dumb one, basically.
Yeah, and but
Dan,
see,
basically.
but instead of just showing someone being, I never, don't get me wrong, some cable TV shows fell victim in that, no pun, in that they would often take away the budget and the actors, and half the time you'd feel like you were watching there was plenty of other HBO or Showtime shows I would be like, I fucking hate this. This is just a big budget B movie or exploitation film. It's not very good. Yeah. And I never got the sense with shows like this, like Rome, this, and Oz, like they have content that in lesser hands would be a tasteless, drive-in double feature. And here, you just feel like they're actually making use of their gritty world instead of, I just want to get more pervs, to subscribe, or I want more, gorehounds to peek in, when past their bedtime. It's like, no, the show, like when they show all the bullying, all the other just saloon guys, like everything they say, there's so much. Like I'm sure if I asked my screenwriting professor if he ever saw this, he would probably say great subtext, great hintings, and it's not anything too cute like foreshadowing. It's like, how would he have known that guy is going to die? It was never anything too cute like that. It was always that it's just another way of saying that they're self-aware of their lesser profession, or how they're a slave and no one respects them except this one guy. And there was a sense of hope, but never to where it felt, again, like there's hollywoodization, but never the right kind, and never to the point where you're just like, okay, this is a big budget, it's a Gone with the Wind type spectacle, and you're taking out the ugliness. It's like, no, the ugliness is not beautiful at all, but it is the intriguing part of this. And we're, again, half the other guys in the saloon could have just been endless gamblers, but like you say, when you rewatch it more, you catch up on other people's names, and you do have fun seeing the double crosses, because there's an overall bigger picture. Like when Cy is going to blows with Swearingen, like we've been knowing it's been going for some time. And when it finally erupts, is just like Al's feeling, like he doesn't have enough manpower and smarts to outwit this bully. He thought he was the big bad who had settled down because people finally left him the fuck alone. And you're like, yeah, no, Cy, he's gotten comfy, and now he could easily, wipe the floor. I mean, Al gets kicked almost to death a few times, and Seth has his moments too, where he's like, "Gag, nabbit, I almost had that bandit," And then,
I love Seth. I love his attitude. I love his temper. He's got such a huge temper in the show.
So, riddle me this: like, again, this I can't choose. Like, you love seeing Oliphant and villain roles like A Man Apart in Scream 2, and then other wacky moments like The Girl Next Door, and then in Die Hard 4, and
also the Heartbreak Club. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
I love that movie. It's so underrated. I've gone out to see plenty of his movies since, because I was such a Justified and Die Hard 4 guy growing up. But like The Crazies and Catch and Release was fun. But like I cannot.
He's in a lot of movies.
So many great. And without Justified, he doesn't get his awesome role that's basically a Raylan spoof on The Mandalorian as the sheriff. But like,
he was also in the Tarantino movie
Hollywood, as well as Fargo show. So riddle me this: do you think Raylan is his ultimate role, or is it Seth?
Seth.
Okay. Oh no, this is awesome because I see so many other people that've seen both and they can't decide. So you didn't even hesitate.
I love him as Seth. I'm sorry. I love his temper. I love his attitude. I love the way he walks when he's walking in the show.
Justified's more of a bigger ensemble, twisted thriller, and this Seth is kind of the heart or the remainder of whatever remains of the soul of the town. Like he is trying to put this. He's like a gift shop owner who keeps putting various antiques back together that inevitably still keep breaking. Like he wants to keep all these trains on the tracks that keep falling over. And Kim Dickens, as one of the other brothel members, like she could have easily been a nothing role, and she kind of brought in some heart and feminism to that. And it's like, well, these people have to band together because again, like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't in this,
Yeah. I Joni Stubbs is a great character. I love Joni Stubbs.
Yeah.
I love everybody in this show. It's just a really, really amazing show. The dialogue really hits you.
Yeah.
It's the writing is just perfect. The stories are great. It's very, like I said, there's very small midge of story where you didn't need something like the whole Garrett and Seth thing. I could have lived without that, but
it's never like you say there are some any flaws are kind of brief as opposed to that season sucked. It never builds out where you're like
every show has its weak spot. I mean, trust me, Sopranos is like my number one favorite show of all time. I love Sopranos, and the last season, the second to last season, had the first couple episodes were extremely weak, and I was like, why did it go this route? When Tony gets shot and he's in the hospital and he's doing that whole the dream sequence, and that episode was just like going on and on. I was like, this ain't entertaining me. I'm not liking this. This isn't what I'm used to for
There are some shows that, regardless of how they're otherwise amazing, where they're like, I will never watch that subplot again. Like you mentioned Star Trek. I already have my master list. Like, I will never watch that episode again. I know some people like it. I know that one's infamous. I probably
there's weak episodes in Star Trek.
And there are some shows where you're like, okay, once I've seen it, I'm good. I'm just going to see the 5 episodes that are amazing in that season and move on to the better season and watch that one all the way through. So there are some one-timers with some shows, but Deadwood I could watch all the way through. It is like a compelling 13 episode movie each season. Brian Cox as the shady stage promoter.
I completely forgot about in the third season.
I think a lot of people do forget that he's in just because
it's in the third season. It's very brief, but he was really good in that.
This was back when I only knew him, from stuff like Rob Roy and Born Identity and
Troy.
Wolverine's creator, Troy. I loved him in Troy, and
he was fun in Troy.
He was having the blast, and
as Agamemnon.
And I think him and Ricky Jay, who you'll know from many David Mamet movies, he's an actual like magician and like gambler.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
But I thought he was perfect here because it's like, see, he belongs here. Just give him the scenario, and he's just going to work on being, this is second nature. He's playing the card shark. Like that's awesome. Like, because you see so many other actors, and nothing against them. It's just they're not ready to do that kind of role, or it's beyond. They got talent, but that's a little above their pay grade. So I instead of. And don't get me wrong, I am not saying you got to be a complete perfectionist. I am not like one of those assholes who watches a movie and your military in-law goes, "There's no realistic." I'm not that douchebag. I'm just like, well, you go out there. Maybe they could get an actual guy, but maybe he couldn't hold his own in a movie, or a show. So it's just like, it's like, this guy's an actor. And he also happens to be a great card player, so let him play the card shark. And he's Sawyer. And I just a lot of the guys who could do a bit of both, I love it when they mix both worlds. I love that, and I think it was just so funny though, just seeing going back to Captain Turner, like he was just interesting because like you see him he doesn't say much for the first few episodes, and then
but he doesn't have many lines.
He's just so intimidating though, just that dead eye stare, like you mess with Hearst, I'm coming for you. And I think that's what it did so well. Yeah,
And that fight between him and Dan was just
it's amazing.
Between well, I remember one of the guys in the episode, he was swearing or something like that, or E.B. Farnham saying like two Titans going against each other or something like that.
Yeah, well, that's just it too. Like, no one ever feels left out, or why should I be caring about any of this? Is like there's a great third person perspective in that you want to be following everything that's going on instead of, oh, well, that just happened. It's never never feels random. It never feels, oh, how convenient, or well acted but formulaic. It's just like, no, then they're on top of so many things. And I did like how, again, Whitney is looking after Garrett, just because Jim Beaver is just, he gets a lot of good lines. And again, he can't be around her because he's busy in the coal mine. He's a prospector, he's trying to pay the rent by digging for gold all day. And it never glamorized any of those riches either. So, I mean, kudos on Milch's part. He knows how it's, a bunch of monkeys jump in a barrel. That's all you got. You don't find anything special. You don't find any golden coin. It's and again, like Wild Bill Hickox. What a way to introduce him. Like, yes, the character historically died, but he's dead in the first episode. And then you just see, flashbacks and everything, and you're just like,
yeah.
And Keith Carradine, he's like screen legend. He worked with Alan Parker and Walter Hill a bunch of times, and seeing him on there was just like, man, in a way, I feel like the spirit of the town dies with him.
It does.
And you feel it. And I don't feel like it's over romanticized. I do feel like, because they're still talking about him. I mean, he appears in the movie, for God's sakes. People are still reminiscing. Oh, he used to frequent this bar. He made us feel safe.
It's funny because, like I said, I'm watching the. I'm about. I think I got one episode left in the second season. Then I'm coming to the third season because I've seen the series over and over again. And I'm just, when you send me the message about doing this, watching
research, baby.
I was already. That's why it's kind of fresh in my mind. But the third season's not fresh in my mind. When you brought Billy Cox, I was just like, oh, I forgot that he was in it because
I do want to read The Golden Years by Watson Parker, which was a lot of the source material that Milch strayed from.
Mm-hmm.
He and his colleagues also bought other books and references that guy published as part of the research. But don't you love how some people have actually tallied how many F words have been said?
I've heard little things online where
2980.
2,980.
Mm-hmm. With 1.56 utterances per minute.
I want to know how many cocksuckers are in the fucking show.
Yeah.
Because really, that word is
YouTube. You got
common.
time? Release the cocksucker cut.
Jesus, I said Jesus cut. I'm curious myself because that word is used by so much. It's Al Swearengen's word, especially.
I use that curse word a lot, and it didn't have anything to do with the show.
It kind of made me use it more.
I curse. So if I'm by myself and I see someone being a real piece of work, I will just let that fly. I'm just like, you motherfucking god. It's just because, and again, I'm not doing it because, well, yes, it's fun to get away with secretly cursing, but like, I'm actually just like, you wronged me. It's like, I saved that for is like the bottom of the barrel. And it's so funny how most people use it just as a gay derogatory or slur, or just hey, I'm being an Italian mobster impersonation. It's like, no, I'm saying it because you have wronged me. And again, like you mentioned how Trixie was badass. Again, like I think the only issue I really have is just in the promo material. It looked like she was just, just a beautiful person they put on the thing just to, for marketing. But, but in the actual show, like she, again, like you see that she wants to get out of here, and Star is really attracted to her and says, I see the good in you, so instead of just doing the billionth, I'm in love with a streetwalker cliche, they go beyond that. And it's like, okay, what's next? And I don't know if Hearst actually got shot by her in real life, but hey, I'll allow it.
Well, like I said, they change things up for.
It's never to the point where you're just like, that's way too much convenience.
Yeah.
It's never. It's not. Again, it's not like Oliver Stone's JFK, where you're like, well, it was speculation, but that's honestly all it is. Like, and it's fun watching growing up, but now I don't know if I could watch it. It's like you could find some other inaccuracy about the show, and it would not wreck it. It would not be a dent.
You just sent me a message on the Russian, by the way.
Yes.
I know exactly who that is. I just saw the message and saw that.
Okay. Yeah. His accent was a little questionable to me, but other than that, it's Russian. What to expect?
It wasn't too bad. It was fine. But he, like I said, he was very, very, very briefly in there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I am not one of those assholes that does the whole, it took one guy to ruin it for me all. I'm like, no. There's too much, talent and production value for me to just let one person ruin it for everybody. And again, all the gamblers, like they don't all sound the same. And the muscle, even if they don't have a single word, like you just can tell all the actors talked it out with producers and directors on how to play it instead of just overstaging, overperforming, overacting. It's like there wasn't anything where I'm like, this is way too hammy, for too good of a show. It was never. I mean, again, like there are some theme songs that have some explicit material in the actual theme, but like this does it in a way where you're just like, hey, they're showing the everyday life, and while at the same time warning you, hey, this is not for kids. Change the damn channel.
This is a very adult show.
So if it takes the theme for me to scare you away, good. Like that, like everything is up front. It is just like a very well timed, stand up. Like I get all the shock value out of my stomach, out of my mouth up front. And if you're still here with me, good. I've gained your trust. You know what you're in for. And again, I never feel like so many other shows where you're just like, okay, it was shocking. I don't know if it was good. It never goes into that gray area where you're like, I'm not sure if it's actually good or not. I watched it. I don't know if it was good. I would do that with some of my dad. Sometimes he'd be like, I saw that growing up. I don't know if it was worth a shit or not.
I can say this, that this show is a huge recommendation for anybody to watch. This is a great.
Even people who don't like Westerns have seen this show, See,
you don't have to like Westerns to like this show.
It's kind of like Firefly or Breaking Bad, where it's like, it's got a Western setting, but it's got some action. It's got some crime, but it is more than that. It is more than just a gangster show or a cowboy show or a history drama or a tough guy.
It's life in the old west, in my opinion. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's HBO.
A little bit of added spice.
And I think they realized how good they had, but they just caved into pressure. They were just like, like they were spoiled. HBO was spoiled on their success. And so you were saying Milch had a 5th season lined up also. I only knew about a 4th season. I didn't know
4th and 5th. They were trying to make the show last for about 4 or 5 seasons.
So that's awesome. So he was kind of like the person of interest, Babylon 5, where he had a 5-year arc planned out, and that's cool. I had no idea. I only knew about a 4th one. I didn't know.
No, it was a 4th and 5th season that they were planning on doing, because he talked about it. Like I said, whenever you ever get the Blu-ray, watch that feature, and he does a whole walkthrough through the set. Just him by himself, him with the suit on, walking through the set and talking about what was planned for the future before it was canceled. And it's a very in-depth with basically the creator of the show. It's really cool. And I think it's like 20 minutes. So it's almost like, to me, it's like an episode on its own, because it tells what was going to happen. He was like, oh, okay, well, now I know what was going to happen. I wish I could have saw it, but you don't get it. So, and then you get the movie years and years later.
That's the other thing too. Like,
a cool feature.
But see, like I think everyone is so spoiled on streaming, they miss the art of the special feature. And there are times where I secretly wish, hey, could they upload some of the special features on the streaming? It'd be a big waste, to not.
Yeah.
And I also get annoyed though at the same time when people go, oh, it got dropped from the service. I'm like, then go buy it.
Yeah.
What's stopping you? Oh, it's on DVD. DVD still looks good. Not every disc, but if that's the only thing it's on, watch it. It'll be just fine. And Blu-ray, like I say, I see some people acting like it's either that, I don't like streaming, or vice versa. I hate Blu-ray, I like streaming. I'm like, why does it have to be a team? Because that's just it. Like, you see so many other shows where people ask you to join a team. Like, Deadwood just drops you into the thick of it, and you keep changing your teams constantly throughout the show. Like, you're not sure who you want to get close to because they could easily show them having a downfall. And I think that's just it. Like, a lot of them are already in the gray area, so to speak. Like, Bullock beats people up without reading them his rights, and we let him get away with it because they're really, really shitty people. And this is about the 5th time he's been beat up today, so he's not having it anymore. And Al, is intimidating, but even he gets slapped every once in a while, and you're like, okay.
Well, no, like you said, he got stand by Hearst when he got his finger chopped off. It was just like side of him being kind of he lost the fight,
exactly. And they do a good job of just showing, hey, everyone is vulnerable here. They are never in complete control, even if they appear so at first. So it is a shame when occasionally I will see people who watched it, and I mean, that's inevitable. You're going to see people who watch stuff in a mindless way or just for the content. And so every once in a while I would see people who are like, oh, watch it just for the tits and gore. I'm like, well, there's a lot of stuff that's not focused on that. So I'll never understand it. Like, I mean, I do, but I don't when it's this good a show. I'm like, you should be watching it because it's a damn fine quality product, not because there's sleaze in it.
Right. No, to me, it's like I said, it's worth the watch. And a lot of people, the thing is, when I was younger, I watched HBO more shows because it was the more graphic stuff. They were, they
took chances
and everything else. They took chances
because and
Tales from the Crypt.
Absolutely, Tales brought out but the beauty of Tales was like once it got past the naughtiness, it was still it left you just cold, and you're like, man, I got to rewatch that. What did I just watch? Like, that was good. I hope I set the tape, and this show though, like when there's graphic violence, I never feel like I'm watching like a lesser, like, B movie compared to some other cable shows where I'm like, okay, this is a fun, cheesy, deliberately over the top show. Like, for instance, like the Power and Yellowstone shows are fun, but there are moments where you're like, that's a Death Wish moment, or that's a Stallone type moment. That's just an 80s throwback, and it's ridiculously, stupidly awesome. But even when there's sex on here, I never feel like, okay, that's a skippable pornographic moment. Like, there's other shows that have done that, and I'm like, that was just to get ratings up. It's like, and never a moment like that. I'm like, well, it is like Power, and where I'm just like, okay, so something graphic is happening right now, but also I'm learning about the character as they're having flashbacks while they're doing this sleazy or sexy moment. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's like, it's not just there, and you can either fast forward or enjoy. It's not a wank fest session.
Well, that's the thing about Deadwood is it's not a sexually challenge. It's not that much sex in the show. It's more of the violence and more of the language for the show compared to the other shows like Rome and everything else. Rome really tops off when it comes to sexual. Game of Thrones and Sopranos, not even so much. I mean, it does have sexual parts in it and everything else, but the fact is that Deadwood is more, to me, it's like it's a drama. It's an adult drama, but historical and done really well. But a lot of people complain that's not the way they talk to the Old West. I like the language the way it is.
Get the fuck out of here.
I actually enjoy the language. I think it makes it an adult show. It means it's like, it's not for you kids, it's for us adults.
Well, and I know you got to get going here, but I'll just say it was also just the right crew. Like, you brought people who were with the Western genre and other people who weren't, and that was okay. Like, they approached it like they did everything. They were a storyteller first, the genre was second, and it went above beyond their expectations. Like, they already showed how graphic they could be on network TV. And then they showed how more adult they could be here too. And there was no difference. Both, they were good. It's just, again, like we talked about with comedians before. Like, I like top level comedians like George Carlin and Richard Pryor, they're great if they're PG versus R. Same thing with Jack Black and Sarah Silverman. I like them when they're PG or when they're X-rated. It's fine. They are good at what they do. You just got to give them the order and they fulfill it. It's like when you're getting a prescription. It's like the person knows exactly what you want. You've used the magic keyword and they're like, I'll save you trouble and get you out of here right away.
There's
no red tape. There's no, oh shit, I'm restricted to my own devices. It's not like when they were cinematographers having to adjust from film to working on digital and they were taking a while to make it work. It's never to that point where you're like, you guys need to just fess up and call a spade a spade. You don't know what you're doing. It's not like, oh, I did all these adult movies and now I'm doing something for Disney that's not really appropriate for that voice or that crowd. It's never, again, they work in any capacity because they're just exceptional. So where can we find Barrel Age Flicks?
Barrel Age Flicks can be located just about anywhere on Spotify, Apple as an audio. We have an audio version of our show, and we also are on YouTube as a video show. We are doing our Halloween series here, which is a lot of movies. We just did Night of the Living Dead 1968 versus 1990, and we got the Demon Knight Bordello of Blood, Terrifier 1, Terrifier 2. We did 13 Ghosts for our main Halloween episode. We have a lot of great episodes coming out further, but we're on YouTube, and check us out. We're hilarious. We get drunk, we take punishment shots, and we talk about the movie and just have a good time.
They go to the bottom of the barrel, everybody.
Oh yeah. So
scrape it up and go back for get refills. They're at Al's Bar 24/7.
It was great being on the show, though. I really enjoyed this.
I loved it. Yeah. So
I never get to talk about TV shows. I always talk about movies, and the fact to talk about one of my favorite TV shows, this was good fun.
I had to bring I tried to bring every guest out of their shell.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a jacked up